Hi students, welcome to the BYJU'S Hindu News Analysis for 23rd of December 2018. So let's get started. So let's look into the first article. So the first article says GST cut on 17 items, 6 services. So what is the context here? The Goods and the Service Tax Council cut rates on 17 items and 6 types of services during its 31st meeting, leaving only one common use item, that is cement, in the 28% bracket. So what are the rate cuts that have been taken care by the GST Council? This involves certain farm vehicle parts, monitors and televisions up to 32 inches which has the screen size presence, retreated tires, power banks, digital cameras as well as the video game consoles. And when it comes to the movie tickets, rate on tickets above 100 have been cut from 28% to 18% tax slab, and then you have the rate on tickets up to 100 cut from 18% to 12%, and from 5% to nil we have certain types of uncooked or cooked frozen branded vegetables. So what we have to understand in the present relevance is certain services has also been completely omitted from the GST slab. So which are these certain services which are supplied by the banks to the basic savings bank deposit account holders under the Jan Dhan Yojana will not attract any type of GST. And the most important point this article speaks about is in reference to the Advanced Ruling Authority. So what happens is you have number of companies which has the national presence, and all these companies work on the pan-India basis, and these set of companies also will have certain issues when it comes to the GST rates and how the GST rates are applied. When it comes to this particular issues, what happens is this authority, that is the Advanced Ruling Authority, is the one which gives the final judgment. But what happens is because of all these companies located in multiple states, an authority in one state can give a judgment which can have a conflicting view from another judgment in another state. So because this particular company has a pan-India presence, conflicting views, conflicting judgments would be given by this authority, where the execution for this particular company becomes a major problem. So in order to address this, what the central government is planning to do is it is planning to set up one of the centralized advanced ruling authorities which will take up such cases, and it will give and provide certain resolution when it comes to these conflicting viewpoints. And what we have to understand in this is that there would be a central advanced ruling authority which will resolve all these type of cases, so that such companies will not have to face any issues whatsoever. So this is the basic about this particular article. The in-depth analysis with respect to the tax cut rates as well as the Advanced Ruling Authority will be taken up in our Business Weekly articles. So this is what we need to understand in reference to this article. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So this article is speaking about the white throat kingfisher, and all that we have to do is we have to understand the IUCN status, and the IUCN status for this bird is least concern. So this is all we require from the prelims perspective. Rest of the things is not that important from the examination perspective. That is why discussion for this is restricted. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article says Golconda Fort comes back to life, and what is of importance to us, we understand the architecture, which becomes an important point from our GS1 perspective, covering the architecture in the culture. So what is this article all about? It is speaking about the Golconda. So what is Golconda? Gol basically means round, and Konda in Telugu basically means hill. So it is a round shaped hill, and there is also another meaning for it, Gollakonda, which also means shepherd's hill. Golla is basically a person called a shepherd in Telugu language. So this is located in Hyderabad in Telangana, and this was originally called as the Munkal and built on the hilltop in the year 1143. So this Golconda Fort was first built by the Kakatiyas as part of their western defenses along the lines of the Kondapalli Fort. The fort was built on top of a granite hill. The fort was built and strengthened by Rani Rudrama Devi as well as her successor, that is Prataparudra, who were part of the Kakatiya kingdom. And later this particular Golconda Fort was fortified between 14th and 17th century by the Bahmani Sultans and then the ruling Qutub Shahi dynasty. And this Golconda Fort and the region was also the capital of the Qutub Shahi dynasty. So what is the present context? So this present article goes on to say that the Archaeological Survey of India has taken certain steps in order to make sure they are able to conserve and preserve this particular Golconda Fort for the future generation. Another key important point from the prelims perspective that we have to understand is the Nakhara Khana. So what is this Nakhara Khana? This basically means a ceremonial drum house. So this can be a prospective question in your prelims examination. So kindly remember that Nakhara Khana is basically a ceremonial drum house. So this article basically goes on to say that the Archaeological Survey of India has come up with suitable steps in order to preserve and conserve this particular structure for the future years as well. So this is what we need to understand in respect to this article. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article says finding skilled manpower was key challenge for the Bougainville project. So this Bougainville project that we are speaking about has three important facts that we have to understand. So the first key important fact is this Bougainville project is built across river Brahmaputra, and this is in the state of Assam, that is in the Dibuga district in the state of Assam. So this Bougainville railroad bridge is a double deck bridge which will have a two-lane railway track. So what does this article say? So this article further goes on to say that this is an engineering marvel. So what are the facts that this particular article says? It says that this 4.94 kilometer Bougainville rail cum road bridge is one of the first fully wielded steel bridge of the railways, much stronger than the bolted or the riveted structure. And this has a unique structure. Why? Because not a single nut or bolt has been used in the construction. The steel superstructure has been efficiently used in order to build this particular structure. So this double decker structure will have two railway tracks on the lower deck and the 3-lane road on the upper deck flanked by the footpaths. And the most important point is this is earthquake proof. That is, the bridge has seismic resonators that can withstand earthquake of up to 7 magnitude, and 2000 MT of steel was used over and above the original estimate for the additional strength. So what is the significance of this Bougainville project? So the most important point that we have to understand in relevance to this particular project is that all the armed forces will now be able to move their men, their equipments as well as materials to the border region of Arunachal Pradesh in a faster manner. So the first key important point is that this will help in the security of the country, that is by the faster movement of the men as well as equipment along the border region of Arunachal Pradesh. And the next key important point is this will obviously reduce the distance between Assam and Arunachal Pradesh by about 600 kilometer. And the third important point is we did discover that there was not a single nut or bolt that has been used in the construction of this particular steel superstructure. So what is important for us to understand is now that this structure does not have any use of nut or bolt, what it has used is the construction of truces using welding. So the question that pops up is how is that this particular structure was constructed without even the bolt, without even the nut? So this technology that the particular project has used is what is called as the truce technology. So what happens in the truce technology is you have it basically an arrangement of certain framework consisting of the beams or the rods or certain other alignments where they're able to withstand all the traffic that this particular bridge will withstand. So what happens is when you have the boat and the nulls, you will have to renew it every now and then. So you have the bridge and the bridge will have the traffic, it will have the load that it has to take on. So this will require the replacement of bolts as well as nuts every now and then. So in order to reduce this particular structure stress as well as traffic load, what we have is a structure called as the truss structure, where you will have an arrangement of beams as well as rods, and this will not require the replacement of bolts as well as the nuts. And the other important point related to trusses, because of its construction, what we also see is it will be able to protect this particular bridge against the harsher weather. So what are the significant aspects? One is in terms of the security. Next is in terms of reducing the distance between Assam and Arunachal Pradesh by 600 kilometer. The third is to do with the earthquake proof as well as resistance to the harsh weather. And apart from this, we are not using any single nut or a bolt, and what we are using is a welding process in the form of truss, where you will have certain beams and rods that are used in line with a particular framework, which will help in reducing the traffic load. So this is what we need to understand in reference to this article. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article is important from the international relations perspective. And what are we speaking about? The Bangladesh elections. And what is that we are speaking in specific is about the political system that exists in Bangladesh. So what we have to understand in relevance is there are two important political parties. So which are these? One, you have the Awami League, and the other you have the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. So the Awami League, when you look at their ideological perspective, is mostly revolving around the central left ideology. And when you look into the ideology of the Bangladesh National Party, what you will realize is they have it revolving around the centric right ideology. And what is the political system that we have in Bangladesh? What we have is a parliamentary representative democratic republic type of democracy, where you have the Prime Minister of the Bangladesh who heads the government, and what you also have is a multi-party system. And apart from this, the executive power in the Bangladesh is exercised by the government, which is headed by the Prime Minister, and the legislative power is also vested on both the government as well as the parliamentarians. But what we have to understand in relevance to this article is that this article speaks about the elections in Bangladesh. So let's try to understand. The first important key article is to do with the opposition, and that is to do with the Bangladesh National Party. So what we have to understand here is that Bangladesh National Party is this country's principal opposition party, and it has wielded power in the past. And when you go back to the year 1991 to 1996, or from the year 2001 to 2006, what you see is that majority of their policies, majority of their rules when it comes to the international relations in relevance to India, they have taken anti-India position. During various stints in the past, the BNP has failed to address critical issues when it comes to something like the maritime boundary dispute, the land boundary dispute, or investments in the common infrastructure, or water sharing arrangements. So all these types of arrangements or agreements with respect to India and Bangladesh, because of their anti-India stand, they were not able to resolve anything whatsoever in the past. So in the previous instances, what we will see is that Bangladesh National Party had no relevance with India. They did not have any talks whatsoever, and all the arrangements and agreements that was taken in the past had anti-India stand. And apart from this, this party has the worst relationship with India when it comes to the terrorism as well as the infiltration. This party has at times even supported certain separatist movements in the Indian region of the northeast states. So what has the BNP done in the past? On one side, it has not endorsed any type of economic relationship or engagements. On the other side, it has provided a platform to all those insurgent groups to create ruckus in the northeastern states. Apart from this, there is one of the other political parties which is called as the Jamaat-e-Islami, and this Jamaat-e-Islami has a close affiliation with the BNP. So what has happened with time is over the past 2 decades, the BNP has got closer and closer to the Jamaat-e-Islami. Why is this Jamaat-e-Islami a problem to India? That is because it is this political party which was almost in support of the Pakistan's viewpoint. It was against the Bangladesh liberation. It did not also support the Bangladesh liberation struggle, and it has always gone by the Pakistan's viewpoint. And when you look into this particular idea, what you will see is there is more and more of radicalism in this Jamaat-Islami, and the Bangladesh National Party has gone in resonance with this particular Jamaat-e-Islami. And what this means is that Bangladesh Nationalist Party always has an anti-India stand, and what this means is that India will not be able to cooperate when it is the Bangladesh National Party which comes into the power. Now that we have understood what the Bangladesh National Party is, what is its agenda, what are the stances that it has taken in the past, what we also have to understand is about the Awami League. So Awami League is headed by Sheikh Hasina, and this particular person has always been close to India. She has had pragmatic diplomatic engagements, and she has some rational strategies for the growth of Bangladesh. Bangladesh. And the most important point when you consider from the Indian perspective is all that she has done is she has made sure there is a commitment towards zero tolerance to terrorism. And what is she done in the past is she has dismantled all Pakistani assets in Bangladesh. She has cooperated with India. She has provided real-time intelligence sharing, and she is able to combat terror, which has been a hugely benefiting factor with respect to India. And also when it comes to the economic advancements, what she has also done is she has taken a plethora of connectivity projects and then transshipment of goods along the river ports, and also providing the bus service from Kolkata to northeast region through the Bangladesh. So what she has done is she has been a very important factor when it comes to India's and Bangladesh relationship. She has made sure that all the vacuum that has been created by the BNP is completely taken over, and what she has engaged in is more of economic activity, stopping the terrorism. And what she has also collectively done is countered all separatist organization that had found space in Bangladesh, which was a problem and paranoia for India. So on one side you have the BNP, which believes in following the right-wing ideology, Islamic in nature, and at the same time the Awami League proposes a secular Bangladesh. So what we have to understand is in the future we will be having the elections, and when it comes to elections, which party will come into picture is what India will be looking into. And that is why this article becomes a very important factor. And in case there is any update in the future, we will surely have the discussion once again. So this is what we need to understand in reference to this article. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article says, for the first time, waterfalls steal rhino thunder in Kaziranga. So what is important from this article is when you think of Kaziranga, it's usually the one-horned rhino that comes into your picture. And previously we have also discussed that this particular Kaziranga also houses the tiger reserve. So what has happened is it is only the rhino which is always in prominence when you think of Kaziranga. But for the first time, what is also done is there is one of the surveys that was done, especially when it comes to the birds. So what this article has gone on to do is it has conducted a particular survey and has given certain facts. So what are these facts? A total of about 10,412 birds were counted, covering 80 species from 21 families during the waterfall census in 19 places nourished by 8 major water bodies in the park. So what we have to understand is this article gives many set of birds, but what is of importance to us is we discover what is critically endangered as well as the endangered ones. So the most important point is there is one of the critically endangered birds, and that is the Bayer's pochard. And then we also have the red-headed vulture, which is also critically endangered. Then we have the Pallas's fish eagle, which is a endangered IUCN status. So apart from this, what this article further goes on to say is why is that this particular AV fauna census becomes very important. That is because these set of birds come from different countries and have their rest in this particular area. So what this means is it reflects the health of the ecosystem. So when you have large number of birds coming up to this particular area, it means that the conditions within this particular area or the region is not deteriorated and the ecosystem has been continuing, and then there is sustenance. But when there is disturbance in the system, then there would be reduction in the number of birds, and then what the government can take up is restoration of this particular region. So this is what we need to understand in reference to this article. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article is important from the GS1 perspective, and that is to do with the culture. So what is the first important point? That there is one of the puppetries called as the Pava Kathakali. So where is this Pava Kathakali usually conducted? It is in the state of Kerala. So this Pava Kathakali basically means it is a glove puppetry. So kindly remember, this can be a prospective question in your examination. Another key important point is India Puppetry Festival. So this India Puppetry Festival is also called as Putul Parampara, and this was organized by the Sangeet Natak Academy in Agartala. So kindly remember, it is in Agartala, and this is a festival which showcases both contemporary and traditional performance, where the Sangeet Natak Academy has actually gone on to propose all forms of puppetry puppetry, whether in the form of string, rod, glove or shadow puppetry, will be organized during this 5-day festival in Agartala. So what is the important point is we have to understand what is the importance of puppetry. So when you look into the significant aspect, what we have to realize is that this particular act of puppetry can be used to motivate certain emotionally as well as physically handicapped students. So you would be able to enhance their mental strength as well as the imaginative abilities. So apart from this, we have a beautiful culture, and India is known as a land of culture. So each culture has its own paradigms, models and its beauty, and what can be done through this puppetry is we can make sure that this knowledge of puppetry, this knowledge of our culture through the epics can be spread across to other nations as well as to the younger generation. So on one side, what it is doing is it is providing the emotionally and physically handicapped students an imaginative and mental abilities. On the other side, what we are also doing is promoting and creating awareness programs for the conservation of this puppetry program. So this is what we need to understand in relevance to this article. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article says NJT bans mining close to Sariska Reserve. So what is the context here? So the National Green Tribunal has directed all mining activities within 10-kilometer radius of the Sariska Tiger Reserve to be stopped immediately till mining leases are all cleared by the Standing Committee of the National Board of Wildlife. And the first key important point from the prelims perspective is, where is this Sariska Tiger Reserve? And this is in the state of Rajasthan. So kindly remember, this can be a prospective question in your prelims examination. So this particular judgment that has been given by the NJT is based on the following grounds. So what does the NJT basically believe in? It says back in the 2006, Supreme Court came up with a judgment. So the Supreme Court said any mining activity within 1 kilometer of the national parks as well as sanctuaries should be prohibited, but this is not taken into picture right now. That is why NJT says this particular mining activity cannot be taken up. So following this particular judgment, the Union Environmental Ministry also came up with a memorandum in the year 2009. So it said that all those mining areas which have been given the licenses in the past will have to stop immediately until there is a permission that has been granted by the Standing Committee of the National Board of Wildlife. And apart from this, Rajasthan is also yet to declare an eco-sensitive zone for the Sariska Tiger Reserve. So the NJT has banked on three important components. One, the Supreme Court judgment, then the Union Ministry notification where it has asked for the Standing Committee of the NBVL for evaluation, and then Rajasthan has not yet declared the eco-sensitive zone. So on all these parameters, because there are no precedents, that is why mining activity needs to be stopped, is what the NJT has gone on to say. But why did this case come into prominence? So there was one of the state level environmental impact assessment authority in Rajasthan as well as the district level environmental impact assessment in Alwar, which had together issued about 70 licenses in the year 2016, and out of these 70 licenses, 24 were falling within the 24-kilometer radius of the Sariska Reserve, and as a result there was a plea that was challenging this environmental clearance, and that is why NJT stepped into it and it said this particular mining activity cannot be taken up. Why? Because this could have negative impacts on the wild animals, this could fragment the habitats, and this could become a corridors for the movement of the vehicles as well as pollution. And as a result of this, what the NJT has gone on to done is it has temporarily suspended this mining licenses that have been given by the State Environmental Impact Assessment Authority as well as the District Environmental Impact Assessment Authority. So this is what we need to understand in reference to this article. So moving on, let's look into the next article. So the next article says Norway to build wind farm amid concerns about reindeer. So what is that we are speaking about? So what we are speaking about is the Stornheria wind park. So there can be one of the probable question as to where this Stornheria wind park is, and the answer for this is it is in the country of Norway. So what happens is when you look into the context, so the Petroleum and the Energy Ministry of Norway had given permission to proceed with the 288 megawatt Stornheria wind park, which is part of the Europe's largest onshore wind power project being developed by Force and Wind Consortium. However, what we have to understand is this wind park is coming up in an area where there is reindeer grazing that happens. There have been concerns that have been voiced in previous things. So there was one of the UN committee on the elimination of the racial discrimination which had asked the Norway government to suspend the project so that it could examine a complaint that this particular project disturbs the reindeer herding as well as the traditional activity of the Sami people. So what has the UN committee gone on to say? So what the UN committee has said here is that the Norwegian government which is coming up with this particular project will have certain infrastructural growth, which will have turbines coming up to this region. This could create a lot of sound pollution. So as a result of this, what we will see is that this particular park will frighten the animals, and when there is movement of these animals to a newer locality, what could also be a problem is for the livelihood of the Sami people. So on one side, what you will do is, because of the sound pollution, you're scaring and moving away these animals to a newer area, and all those people who believe in reindeer herding, their livelihood also will go for a toss. So this is what is being proposed by the UN committee. However, Norwegian government, that is the Petroleum and Energy Ministry, has already given a go ahead with respect to this particular project. So let's look into some of the prelims practice questions. So the first question says, Taiwan state connects which of the following sea? East China Sea and South China Sea, Yellow Sea and East China Sea, South China Sea and Philippine Sea, East China Sea and Philippine Sea. So the answer for this is East China Sea and South China Sea. So let's look into the map for the same. So you have the Taiwan state here. This connects the South China Sea with the East China Sea. So the next question that we have to look into is Tollu Bommalata puppetry is played in which of the following states? Why have we picked up this? Because we just discussed about the puppetry, and that is why we have taken up this particular question. So the answer for this is Andhra Pradesh. So let's look into the explanation for the same. So this Tollu Bommalata is a shadow puppet theatre tradition of Andhra Pradesh. It literally means the dance of the leather puppets. Tolu means leather and Bommalata means puppet dance. So they perform various stories from Hindu epics such as Ramayana and Mahabharata. The musical instrument consists of harmonium, a portable keyboard organ that sometimes serves only as a drone, a long two-headed South Indian drum with tapering ends mridangam, and then string of bells worn on the ankle. So let's look into some of the previous year question paper. It says, despite having large reserves of coal, why does India import millions of tons of coal? So the answer for this is 2 and 3 only. So let's look into some of the main space questions. The question says, explain in detail about the political system in Bangladesh and how it can impact India. So we have already discussed this particular question. So there are many students who are asking for the answers, but since we have already discussed this question when we picked up that particular answer, that is why the answer is not being put up. So what I want you guys to do is, please write all your answers on the comment section so that you guys can have a peer review and the BYJU'S team can also give you an effective evaluation for the same. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.